Hi, I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, and this is a reading from the supernatural novel Bone Key, which originally came out in 2008, tying in, obviously, to the CW TV series. Little background, this takes place during the third season of the show. In the third season, Dean Winchester had made a deal with a crossroad demon in order to keep his brother Sam from going to hell. Dean agreed to be condemned to hell in his place. 1 year after he made the deal. So this takes place after he made the deal, but before the deal was consummated, which happened at the end of the third season. Also, at the end of the second season of the show, a devil's trap was opened, and a whole bunch of demons came out into the world. And a lot of the third season was spent dealing with that. This novel takes place in Key West. There are two demons who possessed a couple named Alberto and Fedra, who were supercharging all the ghosts on Key West. Unfortunately, one of the ones they supercharged was a very powerful spirit, which was the collective spirit of the Calusa tribe, a tribe of native peoples who lived in the Florida Keys, who were wiped out in the 19th century. And the collective spirit of them was activated and is now wreaking havoc. So, the sacrifices will be prepared. The last Calusa raised his hand. Dean felt as if a hand had grabbed him by the chest. Next thing he knew, he and Officer Montrose were both flying backward, landing on the pavement of South Street near the Impala with a bone-jarring thud. His father's combat training, combined with a lifetime of being thrown around by spirits and demons, had taught Dean how to land properly in such an event, so he was pretty much unbruised when he clambered to his feet. Montrose wasn't so lucky. He lay on the street, gripping his arm and wincing in pain. Sam, and the rest of the people in the area, were walking zombie-like into the construction site, walking under the tarp that covered the foundation. Dean ran toward them. Sam! Even though there was nothing on the street, Dean crashed into what felt like a brick wall. He felt blood stream out of his nose from the impact. Stumbling back a step and wiping the blood off his upper lip, Dean reached out more carefully. He felt something solid and impenetrable, even though there was just empty air in front of him. Great. Some kind of wards. Dean saw a bright light from behind him out of the corner of his eye, and he heard a low hum. Turning around, he saw that the Impala had started back up, and its lights had gone on. The cop cars, though, which were still inside the last Calusa's little bubble, remained dead. So was the streetlight. Well, this sucks. He walked over to Montrose and helped him to his feet. You okay? Not especially. A whole bunch of my close friends and colleagues just got dragged into a construction site by a crazed spirit, and my arm hurts. Before Dean could respond, his phone rang. His instinct was to let the person eat voicemail, but it might have been Bobby. Sure enough, Bobby's name was on the display when he pulled it from his pocket, and he flipped the phone open. Bobby, please tell me you got good news. I do, yeah, but also bad. I know what the last Calusa's supposed to do, but I don't know how to stop it. He takes his power from living beings, draining their life. Then at sunset, he makes a certain number of sacrifices in order to bring about his vengeance. And Dean, it's only white sacrifices. Dean winced. Okay, well, we're a step ahead of you there. Our big bad engine just put a whammy on Sam and a bunch of cops. He left one cop out of it, but he's a Seminole. Yeah, makes sense, Bobby said. Yeah, but why Sam and not me? Bobby hesitated. Because you've already been sacrificed, Dean. Say what? Your life already belongs to that demon you made the deal with. Bobby's temper was, Dean could tell, raging, and he was barely keeping it under control. Dean had known Bobby for most of his life, and he'd never seen the man as angry as he was when Dean told him what he'd done to save Sam's life. The last Calusa can't sacrifice you because the sacrifice wouldn't have any power. Great. Look, I'm at the Sioux Falls airport right now. Got a flight to Key West that's taking off in an hour or so. With the layover in Atlanta, I should get there by 10 tomorrow morning. That gives us a few hours to think of something. I can tell you one thing, salting and burning won't cut it. We'd have to do every single set of bones of every single Calusa who ever lived, and we don't know where most of them are. Yeah, the bones here were a big surprise to everyone. Dean gritted his teeth. I'll start digging through Dad's journal, see if he's got anything. Maybe use Sam's laptop. I'll call when the flight lands, Bobby said. You can pick me up. Okay. Dean? Yeah, Bobby. We'll get him back. Yeah. Dean closed the phone and pocketed it. Tough break there, kiddo. Dean whirled around, raising the shotgun. The voice was Montrose's, but the tone wasn't at all the laid-back, deep drawl of the cop. Montrose, or rather, the demon Fedra, grinned widely. Now, Dino, you don't want to hurt poor Officer Montrose here, do you? And he's the only one you would hurt with that pig sticker of yours. While Fedra was talking with Montrose's mouth, Dean was reaching around to the weapon he had in the waistband of his pants. Maybe, but this one might do some damage, he said, lowering the shotgun and raising the Colt. And again, we're back to poor Officer Montrose. Are you really prepared to kill a fine, upstanding officer of the law, a man with a wife and 4 kids, just because you don't like me? Montrose took an oath to serve and protect and put his life on the line to protect people from criminals. You've killed 4 people that I know about, and probably a bunch more. So I'm actually pretty much okay with it. Dean hoped his bravado was convincing, because the truth was, he didn't particularly want to kill Montrose. Dean was more than happy to take someone down for the greater good, and had done so more than once. Besides, once someone was possessed by a demon, their lives were all but over. The real Fedragati couple was evidence of that. But that was only after long-term possession. Montrose had only been taken over for half a minute. Dean wasn't sure he could just kill someone like that. Or rather, knew he could, but he didn't think he wanted to in this case. Jesus, I really am becoming the whiny emo bitch. Nothing like looking down your own personal mortality barrel to make you think about other people kicking it, I guess. If Dean hadn't already met Montrose, he wouldn't have known he was possessed, since the demon hadn't done the black eye thing. Dean still recalled when they had the yellow-eyed bastard's daughter trapped in Bobby's place, and Bobby told them that she was a regular human who was possessed. Can't you tell? Bobby had asked, and he sounded horrified that the answer was obviously no. The method for doing so was one of a legion of things that Dad had never shared with his sons, and Dean still didn't have the trick of it down. The demon was still talking. Besides, I think that now maybe you might want to listen to my offer. Dean smirked. I'd say go to hell, but... Look, Dean, we both want the same thing. Montrose started to move forward toward Dean. Clicking off the Colt's safety, Dean said, Stay right there. You want to talk? I'll talk for a few, but you give me a single reason to squeeze this trigger and you're done for. Self-defense, after all, he could justify. So, for that matter, could shooting him in the leg. True, it'd likely cripple Montrose for life and end his career as a cop, but it wouldn't kill him. When the yellow-eyed bastard had possessed Dad, shooting him in the leg had gotten rid of him without killing Dad. It might work a second time. Fine. The demon held up Montrose's hands in a backing-off gesture. But we do. I want revenge for what that thing did to Alberto. You want Sam back. If we work together, we can do it. Just for kicks. How would we do that exactly? I can cast a spell that will channel all the spiritual energy on this island through a single vessel. It's a variation on what we've been doing. But I need a willing human vessel to do it. Gee, usually you just grab somebody off the street. Pay attention, Dean, the demon snapped. I said willing. The Lascaloose is too damn powerful. If I'm busy fighting the will of the vessel, it won't work. Well, then it won't work, because I ain't willing to do a damn thing with your kind. Montrose, Dean discovered, had a really unpleasant laugh. Or maybe that was just the demon's doing. Either way, the cop's head reared back and his guffaw echoed. What, now you're getting all persnickety about doing a deal with a demon? Seems to me you've been down that road before when little bro's life was on the line. We've already established what you are, Dean. Now we're just haggling over price. For that comment alone, Dean almost pulled the trigger. Instead, he thought about Susanna and that other girl whose death got them down here in the first place. The last 2 people you did your little whammy with wound up with their throats cut. Shrugging, the demon said, Blood helps focus the ritual, and dead girls tell no tales of Italian tourists who roofied them and escorted them out of the bar they were in. You, I'm not worried about blabbing. Besides, the blood isn't necessary, it just helps. You expect me to believe that. Taking a life makes the spell more powerful, so how do I know? No, sacrificing a life makes the spell more powerful. Why do you think the last Calusa left you out of his little confab in there? You've already lost your life, Dean. Your meat's still just wandering around for a year. I don't gain anything by killing you. Another grin. Well, nothing beyond the entertainment value. The grin fell, but it won't help the spell any. Dean only believed what the demon was saying because Bobby had told him the same thing. But he still didn't like the idea in the least. Tell you what, Dean, the demon said, I still need to get myself a little R&R before I do this, and you'll want to consult with your South Dakota pal, and nothing's going to happen until tomorrow at 5:43 p.m. anyhow when the sun goes down. So why don't I just leave the offer on the table? I'll meet you and your buddy boy Bobby at the southernmost point at, say, 5? The demon didn't wait for a response, as Montrose's head reared back again, his mouth levered open, and black smoke streamed out into the night sky. After the smoke disappeared over the ocean, Montrose coughed violently a few times. Okay, he said with a weak voice. That was different. He put his hand to his heart. Always wanted to know what demonic possession felt like. Really? Dean asked. No, not really. Sirens started to blare in the background, and they were getting louder. Somebody's noticing that the chief didn't check in, Montrose said. You'd best vamoose. I'll cover for you. Just keep me posted, all right? Dean made a non-committal grunt. He had bigger concerns than keeping this guy in the loop, and got into the Impala. I'm going to get you out of this, Sammy. I swear. He sighed as he made a broken U-turn and sped back toward Duval Street. Even if I have to work with a freaking demon to do it. Okay, we're gonna pop ahead a bit. To the next bit where they basically get together and Dean does agree to it. Bobby shows up. And okay. Dean drove as fast as he could on South Street, the 2 blocks to the construction site. He wanted to have the Impala as close to ground zero as possible, but the demon insisted on riding in the back. Dean wanted to make her walk the 2 blocks, but she insisted. What, you're willing to do a deal with me, but not willing to let me sit in your precious little car? She had asked. Pretty much, yeah. Dean, Bobby had said, fine, whatever. He practically jumped out of the car as he parked it just outside the wards and threw open the back door. Jerking his thumb, he said, out! Yes, Daddy, the demon said in a pouty tone. Dean practically snarled. Kat was exactly the kind of girl Dean would be all over if he met her in a Duval Street bar, but knowing that Fedra was in there made him want to whip out the Colt and take a shot. Speaking of which, he pulled it out of his waistband and handed it to Bobby. Bobby took it with a nod, then said, I take it the empty streets you're doing, little lady? Good guess, the demon said with a sweet smile. Can't really do my best work with that big an audience, you know? And before you both get your panties in a bunch, I just made them forget that anything was happening here and leave the site. It's a temporary thing. By morning, they'll be back to normal. By then, one way or another, it won't matter. My panties weren't in a bunch, thanks, Dean said, pulling out the bag of dust that Bobby had given him. He pulled out a deep handful and tossed it forward onto the street. It hovered in midair in a splatter pattern, as if he just tossed it against a sticky brick wall. Neither were mine. The demon's smile turned wicked, but then this young woman isn't wearing any. Dean closed his eyes, took a breath, quickly banishing the mental image, and then looked around again. The wards moved. When I crashed into them last night, they were about even with that fire hydrant. Dean pointed at the hydrant in question, which was now behind where the dust had collected. Probably from our cop and military buddies. They ain't happy unless they're shooting at something, Bobby said, and the wards must be designed to expand at any sign of serious resistance. The demon rolled Kat's eyes. Brilliant deduction, Watson. Some of us already knew that. Can we get on with this, please? It's already 10 after 5, and we have a lot of prep work to do. Singer, would you be ever so kind as to draw a pentagram on the pavement? Make sure it's pointing the right way. You mean the wrong way, don't you? Bobby asked with a snide smile. Bite me, redneck boy. You want this to work or not? Demonic magic means reverse pentagram. Yeah. Bobby took out a stick of chalk and started drawing. Need me to do anything? Dean asked. The demon pulled a knife out of her pocket and held it with her left hand. Just stand there and look cute. Then she sliced open her right palm with the blade. It happened so fast, Dean barely registered that it had happened when it was all over. He lunged forward and grabbed her left wrist. What the hell are you? Will you take a chill pill already? She reached up and ran her palm down Dean's chin. He felt the slickness of Kat's blood and instinctively moved to wipe it off. Breaking Dean's grip with appalling ease, the demon then grabbed his wrist. The blood binds us together for the spell. Let me say it again in closed captioning for the hearing impaired. Do you want this to work or not? I ain't gonna let you harm that girl. Kat's face grew hard and her eyes went black. Grow up, Dean. You want to make an omelet? Some eggs are going to get cracked. I need this meat puppet alive to do this anyhow. And all I sliced open was her palm, not the veins of the wrist or the carotid or the femoral. So get over your big self and let me do this. Through gritted teeth, Dean said, Fine. Good. The demon smiled, her eyes going back to their usual blue, and wiped her palm on Dean's other cheek. Feeling fully soiled, Dean asked, Now what? Prepare yourself. The spirits of a lot of very unhappy dead people are going to get slammed into your consciousness all at once. You've got to stay focused. Pick something. A happy memory, a thought, a song you like, a pretty girl you banged, whatever. And focus on that to the exclusion of all else. That should ground you. I need you aware, which means you've got to beat down the other voices that are going to be in your head. The demon moved closer to him. Dean could smell the chlorine from the pool that Kat had apparently used within the last few hours. You sure you're up for this? Wouldn't have said yes if I wasn't, bitch. Get on with it. She chuckled. That's my boy. Not hardly. Bobby stood upright. Pentagram's done. The demon looked down at the pavement. Wow. What? Bobby asked, sounding confused. I've never seen a freehand pentagram drawn so neatly. Dean blew out a laugh. Typical Bobby. The demon then closed Kat's eyes and started breathing more slowly. She folded her legs under her in a lotus position. Belatedly, Dean realized that she hadn't lowered herself to the street, but picked her legs up off the ground and was now floating over the reverse pentagram. She opened her eyes, and they'd gone all black again. Bobby stood to the side and hefted the Colt. Don't think my incredibly neat freehand pentagram's going to protect you from this, little lady. Wouldn't dream of it, Bobby boy. Look, we don't trust each other. I get that. We'll do this, wipe out the last Calusa, save humanity, avenge Alberto, then I'll go back to being the Legion of Doom to your super friends, okay? Sounds good to me. Dean then turned his back on the demon and Bobby and closed his eyes, slowing his breathing down. Dad had sent Dean to a martial arts school when he was a kid, but he'd never taken to it. It didn't help that they moved around so much that he kept having to start over at a beginner at every new dojo, but Dean also wasn't very good at the whole discipline thing. He was more of a brawler. So Dad had trained Dean himself, teaching his sons what the Marines had taught him. But there were a few elements of Asian martial arts that had been part of that, and one was controlling your breathing. Dean put his hands out in front of him, pulled them in toward his chest as he inhaled for 6 heartbeats, held his breath for 3 heartbeats, then lowered his hands toward his hips while exhaling for 6 more heartbeats. He repeated this a few more times while taking the demon's advice about finding something to focus on. But it wasn't a happy memory, not enough of those, a song he liked, though he briefly considered Kashmir, or a sexual encounter, too many of those. No, he focused on the one thing that he knew would keep him grounded the way the demon said he needed to be. Take your brother outside as fast as you can. Don't look back. Now, Dean, go! Sam's not dying. Not on my watch. You protect your family no matter what. I'm coming for you, Sammy. Just hold tight. And don't look back. He opened his eyes. Behind him, he could hear Kat's voice muttering an incantation in a language he didn't recognize. It wasn't Latin, certainly. Since it was demon magic, it was probably some language that was even more dead than Latin. The chanting stopped. Dean screamed. Thank you very much. That's from Supernatural Bone Key. If you want to know what else happened in the book, you should go and buy it. It's available from pretty much any online dealer you care to name in either print or ebook form. Thank you very much, and stay safe.